thank you for coming out here, man. You're one busy man. I met you a few weeks ago at the your new grand opening in Corona, which was awesome.
Right. Yeah, thanks.
That is I mean, some people walk into my office like, man, it's such a big space. That you have there is a big space. What is it, like 7,000? No, how big is it? 7,000?
It's like 9,000.
9,000.
Yeah, we rattle around in there right now, but yeah, it's great.
It is. It was when we went in there the first time. I was like, oh my god, it's so big. I was nervous for Jessica. It was like, how are you gonna furniture wise? Like, I'm like, there's so much space here. Like, you know, like that's the other thing people don't know. The bigger the space, more the offices, more everything. So you've been doing this since what, the 80s?
Yeah, licensed in '84. First year, just kind of getting my way, having the guts to pull the plug on a regular job, and did so and never looked back. Yeah.
What were you doing before that?
Well, after I got out of college, I went to work for Lockheed, which was a pretty good employer in the San Fernando Valley back then. And but then I left that and joined a small aircraft company, and I was working for the owner of the company and recognized I wasn't going to have his job. And I looked around some of my friends and see what they're doing. A few guys that barely made out of high school were, driving Eldorados and own their own house. And I go, maybe I ought to look into real estate.
Yeah. And then, so have you always been with RE/MAX, or what was the first company you started at?
So the first company I went to is a company no longer in business. It was called Country Club Properties, a small company. And the reason I went there is kind of my mentor, the reason I got into this business, the guy that I had identified that was doing real well. He encouraged me. He was there. So I joined there, and within a year, before that, 6 months, he and his brother and a couple guys decided to start their own new company, and I joined that. So I was original of eight guys that joined that company, and in 86, I guess it was, finally, or 85, the end of 85, Ben was there, and that company grew. It was a lot of fun, a bunch of young guys and girls, and we were having a good time out there. Back in the day, we were all door knocking all day, coming back and making calls at night, and it was a lot of fun. So I was there, and then in 96, a guy that I really respected, a guy named Todd Olson, who had been in the business, second generation in the business. He knocked on my door and proposed something a little different, that I come in to be a junior partner of his and help the company grow. And that was the beginning of the ownership hat in 96. We were an independent, and then when we expanded into another market, into Westlake Village, which is about 30 miles away from Northridge, where we had started, we thought, you know what, nobody knows who we are. It was real brand-oriented out there, a strong Coldwell Banker and a Prudential there. So we looked around, and we found that, RE/MAX kind of fit the way we ran our business. So we jumped on in 2000, and it's been a good kind of affiliation.
How many offices do you have now?
17.
17.
Yeah.
It's super impressive. Just like, I have been doing such a short amount of time, and I've tried to build my office a few times, and it's like, I don't think people understand the level of it's like this trait that you have to get people to follow you in an industry where everyone wants to be on their own. Right. And then two, that balance of being a leader, but then allowing other people to lead at the same time. Right.
Yeah, and it's a tough transition, because I had this core group of 5 offices for a long time, and I could touch every agent in a lot of ways, be at every office every week, and have that great interpersonal relationship, and it was built upon the personalities that we had. But as you start to grow, you need to delegate, and you need to stay in contact and provide some support, but you have to trust those leaders you bring on to help.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you said that you used to be like, back in the day, you used to be like, you guys would be door knocking and cold calling young groups. Like when we first started, like when I opened this place, it was like me and like 4 dudes under the age of 25. Like I was like the old man at 30, and everyone was under 25, and it was awesome because like no one had kids, no one had responsibilities. Right. It was like, oh, you want to work until 11 o'clock at night? We worked until 11 o'clock at night. That, like, I don't think anyone realizes, like, the one thing I have noticed with most offices is like, man, like, that's when it's fun. That is when it's like, that is when real estate was the most fun for me, is when we were just young, not a care in the world, banging out open houses every single weekend, coming back on Monday, stoked of all the leads we had, calling everyone, hitting dongs when we put stuff in escrow. You know,
you needed to start back in the 80s.
Oh my God, I wouldn't even. I mean, I hear the stories just early 2000s how crazy things were in the 90s. Like,
yeah, everything was done in person back there. Offers were presented at the seller's house with buyer's agent, seller's agent. We'd negotiate it there, send the agent out to their car. We'd write a counteroffer, call them back in. They run over there, and then they call you from their client's house, because there were no cell phones even back then. Yeah, it was really great. You know, caravan every week. You knew all the other brokers.
You can't even get into listings now.
Right.
Like, it's so funny. I'll watch people say like, oh, you should. I used to was going after one area, and I would try to go see every house that hit the market in the area because I was doing open houses when I first started. So if that house didn't work, I knew what was on the street. Then it started getting to the point where I couldn't even go view anything. It's like, okay, we need a pre-approval letter. We need, you know, in COVID, and we need your PED, and need a pre-approval letter.
Right.
And this is happening. Or we're only going to let you see it during the open house.
Right.
So you can't even prospect homes at that point.
Right. It makes it tough. And, you know, I mean, there's some advantages in today's world, the ability to DocuSign while you're at dinner with your family and respond to a counteroffer and that sort of thing. But it's a mixed bag. See, and it's really been driven home over the last 2 years with the COVID pandemic, where it's kind of forced us to be separate. But an example, you and I could have done this without being in person.
For sure.
But there's something about
I don't like them
in the same room.
I won't do them. People ask me all the time, I'd love to do a Zoom podcast. You guys say I don't do them. And they go, why? I go, it's just not the same.
It's not. No, I agree.
It's just not the same. It's so, and I think nowadays, we're so burned out from seeing Zooms.
Yeah.
That, like, I think people are over the Zooms now.
Yeah.
It almost fueled us to be like, I want to be back in person.
Right.
So you're saying now you have 17 offices. How do you kind of manage going and touching all those people? Obviously you have people in front of you, but you know, when people come, they meet you, you're the man that started it, you have the personality, you have that charisma. How do you manage like having so many offices? Because that's something that I'm always interested in seeing guys like you, like, the list is so long. Let's not even get into your lending and then the announcement of a new in-house title and escrow. Like so many moving parts. How do you still put that personal touch out there?
No, it's more difficult. It is. But you know, we were doing it before the pandemic, where it's all about schedule, right? So I would schedule times where I'd go to each office, and so you know, early on with the 5 offices, I had an office meeting at every individual office every week. And we'd bring our staff attorney with us and a manager of that office, and you know, make it real collaborative, involve the agents, and really have a good time doing that. So we did that, and then we were forced not to do that. And actually, thank God for Zoom, because it did allow some ability to connect better than sending out an email or even a phone, because you know, you could interact and that sort of thing. So. But now we're back to trying to figure out, now as we're getting past this Omicron, I think we're going to get back out, and we called it the road show middle to late last year, when we had it kind of slow down, and to get out there and meet people in person. Because without that relationship, I mean, you know, you just don't create that trust to be able to interact and problem solve and help agents grow. Yeah,
I always talk to agents that, you know, I get hit up a lot of, because of my social media, about like, I'm brand new in the industry.
Right.
First question I always get, where should I go work? That's what everyone, and I always tell them all the same. Don't worry about your split. That's the last thing you should be worrying about. I know you think it's the most important thing, it's the last. And then I'm like, 2, don't care the technology or whatever. Like, who are you going to have to talk to every single day in that office? And do you feel confident with them? That's the number one thing. Like, you know, I left my old broker and came here where I'm at now, and like, I'm so grateful. She's so nice, and I can still call her and ask her questions. But it's like, I'll get off the phone there, I'm like, man, that's what I miss.
Yeah.
Seeing her. You know, that conversation with my old broker I miss. You know.
Well, hopefully that's keeping many of our agents with us.
I believe it. I think nowadays that's what keeps people there, because the technology is everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, if I have to hear if I get one more spam call this week about how their technology is going to change my business, it's listen, it's not going to.
Right.
You know, I haven't had a website in 2 years, like, or any auto emails or nothing. I'm doing just fine.
Right.
I think too many people now lean on the technology and get away from the personal business, because the real estate agents, it's personal.
Yeah. Well, human nature, we're all looking for that silver bullet, some easier way to make more money, right? And hey, there's economies of scale, and there's things that make you more efficient, more effective, and we should always look at those. But in the final analysis, it's your ability to put a plan into action, stick to that plan, and work it every single day towards a goal that's, personal to you, that causes you to get up in the morning and bounce in your step. And I think too many people are kind of looking for the fast, easy buck instead of developing a career of, repeat and referral, and ways to meet new people, ways to add value into the consumer's life so they come to you.
Yeah. This is a question I have for you because you have so many offices, you've been around so long. Like, do you feel like because of our stats as an agent that, 95% don't make it past 3 years, the average agent does less than 12 deals a year, things like that. Do you think that we allow too many people in the industry, or do you think the body alarm, NAR, car, and things like that, we need to do a better way to get these people educated in doing business?
A little of both. I think there should be probably a little more barriers to entry. I mean, this is an industry you can get in with not even a high school graduation and a degree. You can get in for very little money, just the ability to take a few classes and pass a test. And while I like the fact that anybody can do this, what business can you get in with, under $1,000? You're in, you're a part of a board, and you're ready to roll, and you can make a 6-figure income in your first year.
Isn't that crazy?
And 7-figure income. Our number one agent made to him over $6 million last year. That's thoracic surgeons, the top-notch ones in the world don't make that, right? I mean, so, but I still think that, we have to be careful and make sure that those that are out there in the industry, they're taking, they're being held to be entrusted to sell the most valuable asset of a consumer, or help them make a biggest decision in their life, buying their first home or the next home. And I don't take that lightly.
No.
And that, and that's kind of how we lead our company. We don't hire part-time or rarely brand new. We do hire some brand new, but we don't focus on that. We're looking for the entrepreneurial agent that wants a platform of freedom, that can go out and run their business long as it's moral, legal, and ethical, but knows that they have resources, tools, collaboration, support, in-house attorney, all the things that one needs under the umbrella of the RE/MAX system with referrals in 112 countries and 140,000 cousins throughout the world for referrals and such. But really it comes down to running your business. So we really don't put a lot of handcuffs on them. We want to just encourage them and support them, but let them run.
Yeah, it's I was actually listening to a call the other day. Someone was trying to pitch someone on coming, and actually RE/MAX it, not from 1 year to 6. But and the guy said it was actually pretty. It's like I never thought about it this way because my business isn't cold calling or things like that. My business is my face. But he's like, listen, I work for RE/MAX. When I cold call anywhere and I say I work for RE/MAX, they know who RE/MAX is, like immediately. But if you called and said you're at 123 Main Street Realty, no one's gonna know who that is. You have no brand recognition.
Right.
He's like, so that's really hard for me to walk away from that brand. And I never thought about it that way because that's not my style of business. I guess if I was cold calling, I would. It is a lot easier to say a big brand name that people immediately know. Okay, we know what that brand means.
Right. It really does help. As wearing my real estate sales practitioner hat, because I still think as an agent, and I always will. We're agent centric, and I believe that my clients are my agents. So I'm constantly looking for ways to make them better and help them. But when first 15 years of my career, I was at Independence, a very small one, and then a brand new one that became much bigger, so the name got out there. But there were times that they would. I remember one time I was referred in, real strong referral from a good past client, great listing, across the valley in the San Fernando Valley, across the valley. Went went great. They go, okay, we're going to talk it over. I tried to close. Finally, they go, okay, we need to think about it, right? And tried all the tie downs and such. But the next day or two, they said, yeah, we decided to. You were great, but we're going with Coldwell Banker. I go, wow. May I ask who your agent? Which agent? They go, Coldwell Banker. I can't. What's her name, honey? I go, oh, I just got beat by not a person.
You got beat by the brand.
By a company, yeah. And that's just, one little anecdote, but never do you, someone say, well, I haven't heard of your company.
Yeah.
One less thing to overcome. And, one of the things we teach is when you're on your listing presentation, and listing presentation is so important, isn't it? You get that, you're working hard, you're doing what you do, or you're cold calling, and then you get the option or the opportunity to go in there and compete for a listing, and you want to make sure you do well. But, one of the things we can say is, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the reality is I can do pretty much everything else that the other agent you're interviewing, but they don't have everything I have, because I do have, and we talk about our international network and our referrals. And then Gold Nation is something I'm proud to be part of. You asked how many offices we have. In RE/MAX one, we have 17, but in Gold Nation, it's this partnership I've created with James O'Brien to the north. We're now in 5 states, 120 offices and 2,600 agents, $17 billion in annual sales. And that's like brothers and sisters, up and down, referring up and down, commercial, residential. It's been a great association, and it really does truly give our agents a little advantage in order to win the presentation.
Did we, when did it start snowballing for you? Because, you started in 2000, but like 17, and then you joined this, and then that. Like, did you feel like there was a point where all of a sudden, like, it was like bam, 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 and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this happened, then this opportunity happened, this opportunity. What year do you think that was in, when you started really, this, like, the momentum just started flowing for you?
Yeah, well, a few different momentum plays in my career, but over the last number of years, in the early 2000s, when we opened in Westlake Village and we became part of RE/MAX, we really started growing. We were the kind of the hot company in town for a while, and RE/MAX was the disruptor at the time. And we grew dramatically between 2000 and 2006. And then when the pandemic came, it was harder on our brand for a number of reasons, and we shrunk. We played great defense. We saw it coming. We closed offices. We tightened up systems, and we lived to fight another day. But we shrunk, closed a couple offices, and shrunk back down to 4 offices. And then about 6 years ago, my partner Todd retired, and after a couple of years, I go, you know what? You're either growing or dying. And defense is good in football, but in business, you got to stay on offense. You've got to grow. You got to stay relevant to the agents. You got to keep improving, and you have to help your agents grow. But then you have to surround with like-minded people. So I put that on. I started reaching out, and 3.5 years ago, or about 4 years ago, started a conversation with James O'Brien up near Sacramento, who had the largest RE/MAX in the state, and he had bounced back all the way back to where their peak of agent count was. And I go, well, what are you guys doing? And through a few-month conversation, became a true partnership, and he's now my partner. And that's when we started really going after it. And we grew each office. We opened several offices, just brand new startups. Then we did some merger and acquisition, starting with Moreno Valley. And we got some beach cities in Newport and Laguna Beach, and then Tustin, and then our latest newest ones are Corona and Murrieta.
Yeah, no Riverside office. What's that about?
Well, I'm coming. We're gonna. I like this one right here.
It's so that's it. It's just like, it's crazy. Like, I think, it's crazy about you guys being able to grow. I truly believe, of all the deals, everything I've ever done, the hardest thing to do in real estate is recruit agents. Hands down, it is the hardest thing. For whatever reason, recruiting agents is the toughest thing that no one ever realizes. When they go, oh, I'm going to start a team, I'm like, how hard? Recruiting the agents is way harder than anything else you're going to do. It
is, because, if you're a good agent, you're doing well, you're just putting your head down each day and you're going and doing your business, especially over the last couple of years, because everybody's making money. Yeah. Everybody's career's growing, no matter where you are, right? So it has been difficult. Then what you're doing is you're coming across people that are maybe disgruntled.
Well, it's disgruntled. It's and then it's like, I always tell them, it's like, okay, you have to find the diamond in the rough. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, if there's someone good, that means they're at their company. Their company's probably giving them everything under the sun. If they're the number one agent, and I'm like, so you can't go that person. You got to further find the person that's doing like 7 to 10, maybe their second year, and you see big potential in them, you're like, okay, I can actually get this person. They're still in that realm where they don't think they're the man yet or the woman, and not everyone's kissing their butt yet. And that's the person you got to go get. Because the onesie and twosies, they're always going to be ones and twosies. They're never going to, they have no expectation to do big. But that 9 to 11, if you can find that 9 to 11 agent that's young, new, that you can grow, like that's the person.
Introduce me to some of those.
I will.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, if I could find them, I would have them here too.
But it's true. Yeah, I mean, the $20-25 million producer, they're well take care of their system.
Well, maybe, but even like with lenders and stuff like that, like people will call me a lender. I'm like, dude, I have my same guy for 5 years. Like, we have such a system in place. Like, you're not gonna, I'll be your backup. Like, no, I'm good, dude. Like, you know. And I always say that, they're like, oh, just throw me one. I'm like, why would I take money away from him? To give you like. That's like if someone comes to me like, oh, yeah, I sold my house with so-and-so. Well, why? Oh, well, you know, they're my mom's friend, and she just got her license. I felt bad for her. And it's like, oh, well, no. Hello. I still need to work, you know?
Yeah.
So what do you miss most about being an agent, not being a producing agent? Your wife's doing deals for you, but now that you're, like, running the company. What do you miss most about being an agent?
I think the excitement of seeing a buyer get the property, or the excitement to tell the seller the offer, especially now. You can say, yeah, the offer came in, only $50,000 over.
Listen, I know we were hoping for 60, but it's only 50, and they were going to close in less than 7 days. You sure we can't get 55 right now? You're like, oh God, here we go. Yeah,
and the ability to directly affect my immediate results. So when I was just an agent, I was a door knocking farmer in the late 80s. I mentioned that, and had great dominance, and things went well. And then, in the early 90s, we had a little recession, and things kind of slowed down. I had 20 listings and 25 listings. Everybody wanted an open house. I go, man, my brother-in-law's at an open house. My wife,
I've been there before.
My dog, everybody's there. So, oh my goodness. And then, I got to do something different here, and I got into the REO business in Fannie Mae and Bank of America and a few others, and boom, sold 111 houses one year, but I didn't like it. I mean, I liked it because it was paying the bills, was doing real well, but it wasn't that interpersonal stuff again. Yeah. So I guess long answer is that that's why I still duck in a little bit with my wife and get involved, because that's the fun part of real estate for me.
There's nothing better than walking into some stranger's house and closing them in 30 minutes and walking out with the listing agreement signed, with the commission you wanted,
correct,
with someone you didn't. Like if it's a past client or a really, really good referral, like whatever, like I don't even bring a listing contract because it's like, okay. But when you know they've interviewed other people or they're about to interview more people, and you walk into the house 30 minutes later, you're walking out with a signed deal, like no feeling matches that feeling.
Yeah.
No feeling. That is such a cool feeling.
I remember one time I knocked on a lady's door, hadn't talked to her before, and introduced myself and said, hey, excuse me, do you know anybody that might be thinking about selling this year? And she goes, well, yeah, we are. And I go, great, I'd love to meet with you. Well, actually, the realtor's coming over right now, going to be here in about 10 minutes. We're going to list the home. I go, oh, great. So are you committed to that agent? Well, yeah, we told her to come over and list the house. She's from Century 21, So, okay. I said, if you actually felt that you can get more money in a quicker sale by dealing with me than her, would you still be committed to her? He goes, well, I told her to come over and list the house. That wouldn't be fair. I go, you owe me nothing, but you owe yourself the very best. So do me a favor. Let me go back, create some stuff. I'll come back here. And how about 4 hours? Come back in 4 hours. Don't make a decision until I come back. And she goes, I don't know. I go, just you got nothing to lose, right? She said, okay. I came back in 4 hours. I got the listing. And so it's like what you said. Wow, that was awesome.
Like the walk away feeling of that feeling is like, yes.
Yeah.
I think that's what's so cool about, like you said earlier about real estate, is like something you do today could literally make you $1 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like what other industry can you say, like I could go make one call today.
Right.
In this market especially, I could list a house. I could make one call today, list it next week, put it in an escrow, and less than 21 days have a paycheck.
You're right.
It's insane.
Used to be, you'd say, hey, you need now money, you gotta find a buyer. Because you put them in escrow, you get paid.
Yeah.
You get a listing, you take time, you get a listing, 30, 60 days of marketing, and 30, 60 days of close. So that takes a little longer. Now... It's the other way around.
I feel really bad. Like I have turned down more buyers in the last year just because I'm just realistic and I'm one guy. So it's like I just don't have I just don't have the next 6 months to run you around and knowing that you're not gonna be able to buy a house.
Yeah.
It sounds awful to say that, but it's like, it's the truth, you know? And that's why hopefully, like, that's why I try to put out as much educational content, just to educate people on like what's actually going on and not to get their hopes up. Because sadly, someone will tell you like, yeah, we can get you in a house or whatever. But it's like the emotional wear it takes on you and your clients is
right.
It's next level. Like it's very difficult. I think it's something I never realized would be in this industry.
Right.
The wear and tear of telling people no all the time.
Yeah.
You didn't get it. You didn't get that house, or this didn't happen. Like that is something I've had to get used to.
Yeah. And, you know, this market will change, and then it'll be the other way around. But you're right. And you know, and you putting out information and making people aware really is helpful, because there are still people who don't recognize that.
Yeah.
And they're so frustrated. Well, how come we didn't get it? Well, you were 1 of 8, so you had a 1 in 8 chance. I think we beat half of them, so really 1 in 4. But then there was these 2 others, and one was cash and $100,000 hired you. It's just not fair. I know.
Trust me. I always laugh. I always say, there's 2 things I always laugh when people, they say, I go, 2 things. When the people like, sellers go, I'm not going to want to let one go. Well, we've never let one go yet. And I want top dollar. Me too, because I get paid more. Just like on the buy side, I just want my offer to get accepted. Trust me. Me too. I want to get your offer accepted as more than you do. Trust me.
And sellers, when they go to seller school and they learn this line, we don't want to give it away.
Yeah. I mean,
we don't hear that now.
No, no. I mean, it's all relevant. Like I've had clients probably in the last year, like we go 40 above and they're like, oh, we couldn't get 45 above. And you're just like, wow. It's going to be sad. I think what people don't realize is when that shift happens, whenever that shift is, if it's next year or whatever, is like that free period when the buyers are realizing that the market's not high and sellers don't want to lower prices, that 30 to 60, maybe 90-day window where both are kind of stalemate, where buyers are like, we're not paying that much, and sellers are like, well, we're not dropping our price, and then sooner or later someone goes in.
That's where the strong realtors, by telling their clients the truth, getting them to take a little less as a seller, pay a little more as a buyer, knowing that end result over time it's a good decision for them, they'll win.
Yeah. Do you like how we talked about DocuSign and Zooms and stuff like that, but overall, do you like the way real estate's done now, or did you like more back in the 90s, or really back before the internet? Which one did you like? If you could go back, if you could pick now or then, when would you pick?
Well, for fun and building quality relationships and best outcomes was the old ways, because there was no misunderstanding. You could explain the purchase contract and every nuance to them. You could explain the entire process. Everything was done in person. You run with an amendment. You go over there in person and you get them to sign, explain why. So that was great. But, I was working 7 days a week until 11 o'clock at night. And my daughter, for the first couple of years of her life, I felt like I didn't see her a lot. So I think they're both. Here's what I would tell agents to do now. Embrace technology, but try to, especially if, in the process of an escrow, stop by in person, go over things, see how they're doing, bring them some moving boxes. I don't know, just do a little more high touch mixed with the high tech. The outcome will be tremendously better. You're going to hold their hand a little bit better through the very stressful part of the process. Hey, we're working behind the scenes, talk to the lender and escrow and that sort of thing. They don't know it. Yeah. They don't know what's going on. So try to introduce, a phone call and a pop-by in person. Hey, can I stop by and go over a few things with you and tell you where we are? Yes, it's going to take some time, but not as much time as it did 30 years ago.
Well, and too, you probably, most agents have like one escrow going at a time. So It's not like you're that busy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the other.
Yeah. Did you ever coach with like Mike Ferrier, nothing like that? Some of the scripts you said are kind of seem a little scripty. Did you coach with Mike? Because Mike was really the guy back in the day.
He was, yeah. Mike, I went to a superstar retreat down there in
Vegas.
No, before it was in Rancho Mirage.
Oh, and Ilya was in Rancho Mirage.
Yeah. And I think the Marriott Desert Springs, and I was there late 80s. I think it was 87. And I remember going to that. I think I was going to do about $10 million that year. I knew I did $14.5 million closed in 88, and I thought I was the guy, But I went there and I go, wow, there's a lot of people that do that or more. I'm not such the guy.
Isn't that crazy?
But I never fully embraced Mike. I wasn't a great cold caller. I like a lot of his information, and we have some agents that follow them to a T and do very, very well. Never was good at banging the phones really well, but I did recognize the power of, scripting, if you will, but presentation skills that you say the same thing each time.
Yeah.
You ask questions, you involve them in it, so you get the right outcome. And done such a way that it's not too scripty. But yeah, well, interestingly, back when coaching was just getting started, I had 2 coaches from the Mike Ferry organization in I think it was about 1990. And one guy was named Matt Ferry and one guy was named Tom Ferry. And then, we all know what happened to Tom. He's done really well. The funny thing about coaching, too, is it really works, but the most important thing that it does, it makes you accountable to something.
That's all it is.
That's the biggest thing. It's not so much what they're telling you to do. They're making you do what you already need to do. And there was many times I remember, oh, man, I got a coaching call coming up.
Yeah, you feel guilty.
Oh,
I didn't do what I was
Maybe I won't take the call.
You're like, oh, man, I got a coaching call tomorrow. I have not done my calls. I haven't done this. You're right. Like, you would think as humans we would be accountable to ourselves because that's how we get paid.
Yeah.
But we actually have to pay someone to be like our parent and be like, why didn't you do this week?
Right.
Why didn't you do this week?
Yeah.
I think the hard thing now is like there's just so much information out there. Even for me, like I'll, obviously you walked in, you saw the news studio. Like I'll be reading news articles sometime, and I'm even like, what's going on? Like, are we like, is this happening? And like even I get overwhelmed sometimes, and I'm in it. Like I can't imagine the consumer when they're watching a TikTok video or an Instagram video or something like that, and that's where they're getting their information anyways off of Facebook posts.
I mean it's rapidly changing. When I've seen people are paying $1 million for property in the metaverse, something.
Yeah, right.
What is that?
You're gonna open the first metaverse Remax or?
Yeah. Do that. That'd be good. I'll need you to help me.
I don't know anything about it either. I mean, I guess as it's supply and demand, sooner or later. I mean, it makes sense. I'll take the metaverse conversation for 1 second. The guy who bought the lot next to Snoop Dogg. If he, for some reason, thinks somewhere down the road in his life he might need to talk to Snoop Dogg, then there's the chance you might meet Snoop Dogg. That's your best chance of being able to talk to Snoop Dogg because technically he's your neighbor. But, like, what if Snoop Dogg doesn't ever go back on the metaverse? So you bought this lot for nothing.
Good point.
Do you ever think, like, are you keeping up with, like, crypto and things like that in the industry? Or?
Yeah, it hasn't really, been utilized as a currency in our business much yet, but it will.
Well, I know I have a handful of clients that did well last year in crypto, and now they're selling and buying real assets.
Yeah.
So I laugh. I'm like, but I thought you believe in crypto. No, you're selling crypto to buy real estate. Like,
yeah, a few years ago, a guy in my gym, all good financial stuff comes out of the gym.
Of course.
He goes, hey, do you have any Bitcoin? I go, no. He goes, buy some Litecoin. So I bought a little. It doubled in a week. I sold it and never bought any again. And probably if I kept it, I've been a lot happier.
If you doing all right for yourself, maybe you wouldn't be on this podcast right now. Maybe doing a crypto podcast.
I'd be like the Winklevosses. How many millions do they have of that?
So so now obviously are you still trying to grow more? So you currently have 17 and then the big group but are you still like, obviously you just got Murrieta and Corona, but like is the main goal to grow more, or is it to maintain, or is it just to kind of improve what you already have going on?
Yeah, a little, all that mixed into the end, which is, grow more, but the 2022 message really is to, we're turning down opportunities for M&A. We really want to concentrate on those 17 offices. My favorite way to grow is get our fellow agents to grow, add 2, 3, 5 more transactions this year. And so that's kind of our main focus. Mm-hmm. And then fill in and bring in some like-minded agents, and we call it selection, not recruiting, because really, if I'm recruiting you, we're selecting each other.
Yeah.
Are we right for you? Are you right for us? Mm-hmm. We know we're not right for everybody. Someone is a hobbyist or something, and we're just, it's not the place for us. We're not the place for them. But we need to grow all the time. There's people that retire. We get as big as we are. We sadly a couple passed away last year. So we need to continue to grow, but not so much looking for, to be to 20 or 30 offices anytime soon. Yeah,
I think the growth of too quickly, I don't think you realize it's that then you're starting to lack brand recognition and starting to take on agents that don't represent your brand. I think that's the mistake some people make. Like this place, like if you don't want to be on video, I am not the person you should be working with every single day.
Yeah.
Like, it just wouldn't work here. Like, you have Adrian who follows around with a camera all the time. We have videos. We're shooting video almost every day we're shooting some type of video. So if you're not someone who wants to be on video, this place is just never going to work for you.
And if you haven't been here,
yeah, exactly,
it's amazing. Yeah, each little room you have
stages.
set up.
Well, I started learning goes back to like, what can you do every single day?
Yeah.
And a lot of people hit me up like, how do you shoot so much video? I'm like, we don't take anything down. Like, we don't even move lights. Like, I just buy more lights. And they go, why is that? I go, if setting up a stage takes 15 minutes, then breaking it down takes 15 minutes, and then we do it to another place, that's an hour a day that we're wasting just taking down, setting up. So for us, if we're doing that every single day, then we're wasting 7 hours a week times 52 weeks a year. That time adds up.
Very much.
So for me, the less time it takes for me having to shoot a video, the more I'll do it. I mean, shoot, just the ideas take the longest, trying to figure out how to, I mean, I can only talk about rates going up so many times. You know what I mean? Like, I can only talk about, and then my goal was like, what is a video or an idea that no one's talking about that I might make, because that's the way I will hopefully maybe blow up one day. You know? And that's the hard part, is trying to find the video and then doing the research on the video so you don't sound like an idiot. Because like, I made a video last week about NFTs and I said the wrong thing, and some guy just blasted me in the Instagram message. He's like, that's not what that's called. I'm like, dude, I've been talking about crypto for one video. Like, can I get a minute? You know? So for you, like, how many more years you got in you, man? Like, or are you just hitting full stride right now?
Well, you know what? If you would have talked to me 20 years ago, I would have thought by now I'd be slowing it down, because that's what we think, right? I mean, when you're 40, you think, working in my 60s and slow it down and golf more and work less. And the reality is, I don't.
Well, shoot, if I knew you were a golfer, I would have told you to bring your sticks today. We would have played.
I don't golf very much. I enjoy it, but just takes too much time. And
see, you got to be a member at a private club. 2.5 hours, done 18, go home.
I know. Yeah, I was a club for nearly 10 years, and I'd start realizing my family's not using it. I'm not using it. But I don't hunt. I don't fish. I don't bowl.
I don't bowl either.
Real estate's kind of my hobby on top of my what I do, and with the changing way that people interact with each other, the good and the bad. I could do this for longer than I would have thought years ago. And the reality is, I still enjoy it. I enjoy it when it's difficult. I enjoy the problem solving. There's tough days. There's things that happen that are kind of grueling. But really, I have no end date right now. So it depends on my health and my.
Do you feel like when things get tough, that's when you succeed the most? Like, every time I've woken up in the middle of the night and had credit card max hit my notifications and have no escrows in the pipeline and be broke, that's when I remember one time I came here like at 4 a.m. I'm like, well, I can't sleep. I have no escrows. I just lost 3 escrows this week because of whatever. I'm like, well, I better come here, and I sent out 1,000 mailers the next day. I'm like, well, I better. Do you think that is something that successful people do better than anyone? When their back's against the wall, it's almost sometimes I search for a bad moment, because I'm like, I kind of feel like I need that like fuel. I need something bad to happen to put my back against the wall right now.
Well, oddly, that's what makes you a champion. That is a trait of people that are winners, that they recognize life has its ups and downs, and to get out of the downs, you need to pull yourself out, and it can fuel you or it can bury you. And I've seen both. I've seen talented people have something happen in life, and it buries them for a year, and maybe they get out of the business. It's just too much. And then, then there's others that just eat stress for breakfast and champion on. And I think that's what really separates the real successful people, the ones that are steady year in, year out, all markets. And so, do I root for a tough market? Well, not really. But then again, yes, because there's a flight to quality, the perception of the consumer that, hey, I can't take a chance on my brother-in-law's cousin's friend who's part-time. He's a locksmith and he's a realtor. They have to go get a champion, and I think that plays in our wheelhouse. But it doesn't come without changes. When we came out of the hot market mid last decade or 2 decades, the 2005, 6, 7 change. A lot of people, they're grabbing that low hanging fruit, sit in open house and sell that and sell to others, and meet somebody. It just, didn't have to put in the work. They worked, but they didn't work it like a system.
Yeah.
And it called the herd a little bit, and that's probably eventually, I don't see anytime soon a big change, but things go in cycles, and eventually we'll have some economic challenges that will affect our business.
Well, I just think we got sooner or later hit a price correction. I mean, not even like prices go down, but just like we can't have it going up 20% every single year. I mean, so I tell her, I'm like, it happened once last year. We're not going to see 20% again this year. Like,
I can't see it either.
Well, because I look at houses out here that I sold for $500,000, and now I'm selling them now for $705,000. 2.5 years later, I'm like, there's no reason why this house should be worth $200,000 more. Like,
right.
I mean, it's great for me and it's great for my client, but for me, like, I'll look at houses and I'm like, there's no way that house is selling at that price. And then 2 days later, it's pending. I'm like, what the? And then I see it close over ask. I'm like, so I'm starting to get to the point where I'm thinking like, no, like when now sellers will be like, what can we get this? I'm like, we'll find out real quick if we can or cannot. I'll tell you that for a fact. Like, no number surprises me now.
Right. And it's funny because if that's a phenomenon that's all over the country, just at different numbers. You take that 705 and you put it in Oklahoma and it's 305 or something. You put it in Northridge and it's $1,001,05. Put it on Malibu Beach, it's 11,000,005.
Well, I mean, the houses that are coming on the market now for the one's coming on the market for 250 million, then another one just came in for 139, and like I think the biggest house sold ever was like 139 this year in Malibu. Like, to think someone paid $139 million for a house.
Right.
How rich are you to be able to buy?
What's great about that? If you ever get a $139 million listing, you can market to every person in the world that can afford it. Because it's probably only 1,000 people.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that crazy?
Because it'll be a second home too.
I know they won't even live there.
No.
I watched a documentary on New York, people who buy on Billionaires Row in New York. Like, half of them never even been there.
Yeah.
They just buy it, stick their cash there. They somehow take the deduction, and then the market goes up, they sell it. Like, they've never even stepped into these places.
Yeah, that's not in my world.
No, me neither. I'm still living in my 1-bedroom apartment. And that's the other thing too, is like, it's for us, it's all about focusing and reinvesting and reinvesting and reinvesting.
Something I could tell young people, young agents, is fight to get that first house and hang on to that and get a next one. And
I know, if I could go back and buy the houses I could have bought 3-4 years ago. Gosh,
the houses I've sold in my career, if I had kept them, but you can't save money as good as you can invest and hang on. Even buying today at the peak of the market that we think it'll never go higher. You buy today, and 10 years from now, it may fluctuate, but in 10 years from now, you'll be paying down that mortgage. It will be up 10 years from now from here, and it's going to be a great decision. So that's something we try to encourage our agents to do as well.
Well, I appreciate your time, man. I know there's a drive out here, and you're a busy man. You have a lot of offices, and I'm just some guy with a podcast room. So
yeah, I wanted to see how you roll. This is great.
Yeah, I think that too many people think that it's one way or the other, and I think that it's all the same game. The more people that know you, the more people know what you do, the more people that like you, the more deals you'll do.
That's right.
It doesn't matter how you do it, if it's door knocking in the 80s and 90s or doing podcasts nowadays.
Yep.
It's all the same game.
Isn't it? Yep. Yeah. Totally agree.
Appreciate it, Keith.
Yeah.
Until next time, guys. Peace.